We are live. So, good day, wherever you're joining us from, ladies and gentlemen. It's good day, good evening, good night, all across the world. We have more than 300 people joining us today. We were just checking out where people are coming from. So, we've got several folks all up on the East Coast, and it's good morning as well, early in the morning for folks joining us from PST, late evening for folks joining us from India, of course, afternoon time for folks from UK and Europe as well. We are super excited today. As you can see, our energies are way up at this point in the day as well. It's because of some big news that we're going to share about Outplay, and there's several things that have evolved over the past few months as well. And that's why we're here to make these big announcements as well. And joining me, of course, before we begin, my counterpart and namesake almost, Sandeep Mohan. Hey, Sandeep, and welcome to this LinkedIn live session.
Hey, Sandeep. Just that I've got my name trademarked.
Yeah, that's one thing I can't take away from you. Sandeep TM has got his name trademarked as well. We're going to be talking, and of course, there's a reason why both of us are here today. Traditionally, if you think about Outplay as a product, Outplay is how we position the product. As of course, the core product in itself is built for sales folks. It's built for SDRs. But then I am here for a reason as well, and we'll keep that reveal for a little bit later on during the course of this presentation. As usual, folks, feel free to drop in your questions on LinkedIn live chat. We can see it on our screens here. We're operating through a platform, so we will know as well. Or if you feel like, hey, I don't want to ask you questions now, I want to reach out to you later, both of us are very available on LinkedIn. Feel free to hit us up and check about specific things we're going to be announcing as well. But let's get right into it. All right, just to set some context of why we're doing this today and why it's so important today in the larger context as well, right? So according to Gartner's Future of Sales report, there are a few things that are going to take the wave. And we're already seeing a lot of this in our early days as well. One, of course, is the advent of automation in terms of the ability to be able to automate at scale. Two, of course, is digital first engagement. I think ever since we moved into 2020 phase, the pandemic phase as well, several companies almost moved purely online. Now, of course, a lot of companies operate in a very hybrid atmosphere, but the need to have a digital platform because your customers are all using digital platforms becomes even more higher. So how are you going to reach them? Of course, you need to have something in place. And of course, the name that's been doing the rounds, and this is we're not over the last 2-3 years itself, AI, has now probably evolved into several other things as well. And we are truly seeing the effect of AI, the effect of Chat GPT as well, in terms of what it's going to do to the world. So all of these things are really going to play a big role going forward and now as well. So really, if you think about what we have done in Outplay as well, is to keep all of this in mind while we've built the product. And hey, we don't want to wait till 2025. We have all of this ready right now as well. I will show you, we'll talk about some of this stuff right now here in this conversation. All right. But given the fact that you need hyper automation, you need to be digital first, you need to have AI, I'll give you a stat, right? And don't be, and feel free. I did this in one of the earlier events that we had as well. If you're joining this call live, I would love to hear from you. How many tools do you think are there in the sales tech world? Random guess. If you're out there, feel free to just drop. Sandeep, you want to just randomly throw a number? How many tools are there in the sales tech world today?
Salespeople are very finicky, man. I think we need as many tools as possible, but I think that trend is changing big time.
So the reality is, you are right. Salespeople need many tools as possible, and that's what's happened. So companies have gone out and created multiple tools. There are close to 1,200 sales tech tools today across 49 different categories. Now that's crazy. That's great. And the reality is, and you can ask Sandeep, and he'll vouch for it himself. Actually, salespeople, whilst they love having different tools to solve different processes, they don't like working on too many tools. They would rather have everything put together in one place where everything is seamless and everything is a lot more easier as well. One big stat that we had from a recent report that came out that said that on an average, companies would have anywhere between 10 to 12 tools that they're using with salespeople. Now that's almost a mess, right? Where 66% of sales reps are almost drowning in their tools, right? So the larger conversation now, the conversation of consolidation is not a conversation that's happening now. This is a conversation that's been happening earlier as well, ever since. Just think about the sheer number of tools we have in the world, right? How can we bring all of this together? How can we put all of this together in one place? And that's really the conversation that we have been thinking about as well. How do we make it simpler and easier selling should be a lot more simpler than what it is today. We've tried to overcomplicate this process, and that's why we've built whatever we've built, right? So we'll talk to you about a bunch of things that we've done to help you in that process as well. And of course, we're not going to leave out the new age technology. That's all that's there. Everything that we're going to do is going to be keeping AI in mind. Everything that we're going to do is help you streamline your processes, bring down costs as well. So really trying to leverage the new age technologies that we have, trying to leverage a digital first environment, trying to leverage hyper automation in the larger context as well. And that's how we've really built this entire ecosystem, right? So for those who don't know who we are, I'm sure by now you know we've got a bunch of things going on. If you haven't heard of Outplay, we're a company that was founded in 2019, a Series A funded company from Sequoia, more than 100 employees working all across India and the globe. We also have more than 5,000, and that number constantly keeps increasing. We probably need to update this slide almost every other week for the sheer number of customers we're getting. And we're top rank, not just across G2, but also in Capterra channels and several other platforms as well. And let's get into it. All right. So here is what we're going to try and cover over the course of the next 30 minutes or so. First is we're going to give you a glimpse of how we've thought about the future of sales prospecting itself, why that's so important. How is sales engagement looking in the digital age? So this is really about sales engagement, Outplay 2.0. What's the future? Because most of you know what Outplay does, but we're going to talk about what has really happened. The third one, which I'm particularly interested in, is, of course, inbound conversion. What have we done in the whole inbound space, and how have we taken steps there? And of course, in today's world, almost a bread and butter for every sales team, conversational intelligence, and what have we done in that space as well, right? So we'll try to cover these four things. Of course, feel free like dropping in questions as and when you like. So let's get into the first one, the future of sales prospecting. And let me bring in ST and Sandeep into this conversation as well. Sandeep, tell us why, and I'll tell you, of course, I have the marketing use case, but tell us why it's so important to have this, and walk us through what Outplay has done so far in the lead sourcing space today.
See, like how you mentioned, Sandeep, sorry, you guys are going to be hearing a lot of Sandeeps in this call, but that's what it is. But what we do as salespeople, day in, day out, we try, when it comes to at least outbound as a motion, we try to get like as many leads as possible. We try to get the contact information of prospects. So there are multiple data tools that we use. Then we have to keep navigating through multiple tools to get the right information. But what has Outplay done differently to solve for that problem? So we have created a marketplace. When I say we have created a marketplace, we have got multiple vendors who are already selling data to come and have their data placed within Outplay. So the easiest example could be like an Amazon for data. Can you beat that? You get anything and everything. So that's exactly what we are creating. We are in the process of creating a bigger Amazon for data. So whenever you need any contact information, you don't need to go navigate through multiple data players. All you need to do is just subscribe for Outplay's marketplace for data, and then you get like contact information of prospects from various different platforms that are available that we have signed up with. So that's exactly what we have done. I think it's quite innovative, because if you look at organizations today, they have like subscription to multiple data players, and we are trying to eliminate that. We're trying to make that like a one-stop shop for companies out there.
Yeah, and a very powerful point to what Sandeep mentions, also the fact that if you think about data, right? Normally, if you go to any data provider, each one is specialized either in a particular region or they're specialized in a particular technology. By having a marketplace, we eliminate the effect of all of that. Right? You have the options of multiple data players, and of course, you're only going to get the best of the best in terms of picking up their data, right? So that's very powerful thing. So in the current ecosystem that we have, like as Sandeep mentions, there are more than 35 million odd companies, 850 million odd contacts, and data that's available in the larger sense as well. And you can use the platform in a very much in the most optimal fashion as well, right? Typically with any data platform, you can enrich leads directly. You can create multiple lists. You can use filters across different. So what we've given you, as you can see on the screen as well, if you're able to see it right now, the different kinds of filters that you can use, whether it's picking up using the right kind of technology. So yeah, the use case here is not just for salespeople as well. As I said, I was want to say it's a very strong marketing use case as well, right? So for example, if you're running any kind of email campaign, or if you're building some kind of an ABM program, you cannot do without data, and this as a platform becomes something that potentially you could use, right? We will go to the
And the
next
whole
one.
idea of having that data. So one more reason why not just the marketplace, having data within a sales engagement platform makes so much more sense, because salespeople, from a sales angle I'm talking about, they have to wait for data to come from one platform into the tool of action. But if it's made available from within the tool of action itself, it makes life so much more easier, right? Your waiting time is reduced by that much. Your unproductive time, that is basically reduced by that much, and then you just straight off the bat be able to actually start reaching out to your prospects from within the same tool. So it's just one tab, you get multiple things done.
Literally the next slide, one click engagement, right? So literally trying not to move away, and like Sandeep mentions, salespeople don't like working on, I mean, some of us have multiple tabs. I do have multiple tabs open, but it's not the most efficient way of working. You'd like everything to be in one place, specifically in terms of what you're doing. Spot on. One click engagement, literally with the click of a button, you can move your contact details straight into and sales engagement platform into a sequence right then and there. So no waiting for data to pass through different platforms, different people, and whatnot, right? So we'll do that. Oh yeah. Tell us about LinkedIn.
So this is another interesting aspect of our marketplace for data. So it's just not within Outplay that we have made it available. So we've got our own Chrome extension. So I'm sure that salespeople spend a lot of time prospecting on LinkedIn and Sales Navigator and all of that. So our Chrome extension that Outplay has introduced can get your contact information of prospects from LinkedIn or the Sales Navigator as well. So again, you can straight away add them to create a list from Sales Navigator, or straight away add them to a sequence. So it makes life so much more easier, right? So think about the workflow without a Chrome extension that Outplay has to offer. You need to get your prospect list and then send them to another tool where you need to get the data of their information, like email address and phone numbers, and then push them into a tool like Outplay, like for the action to happen. But here, everything happens in a jiffy. All you need to do is just ensure that you find the right ICP, get their contact information using the Chrome extension, add them to a list, or maybe even add them to a sequence straight away, so that you've reduced so much time in terms of going through the whole cycle of getting it enriched in another tool and then having it into the data into the platform where you go to outreach to people.
So now let's move to the next part. Now we've heard everything about data, and of course, Sandeep also mentions the early part of sales engagement, right? Today, having a sales engagement tool is table stakes. It's something that every sales team needs. It is almost like having a CRM. You can't do without a CRM. At the same time, you can't do without sales engagement, right? So you need to have sales engagement. Now we're going to just cover little bits about what Outplay does for those who don't know what Outplay does in the larger context, but also talk to you a little bit about what are the enhancements have gone into the product as well to make that experience a lot better. So this segment will sort of capture everything that you know of a sales engagement platform. So anyways, if you are out there evaluating a sales engagement platform, you have to have all of these things that we're going to cover, right? So we'll just walk into it. So STM, yeah, why don't we start off with multi-channel?
Great point. So first of all, we were talking about emails and calling, and then traditionally we moved into LinkedIn as well. But are our audience actually just limited to just email, calling, and LinkedIn? Not at all, not anymore. So that's why Outplay offers much more than just those three channels. Sometimes we can start reaching out to prospects on Twitter. Prospects are open to that. Think about text messaging as an option. Think about WhatsApp as an option. Why just still stick to the traditional mediums? So Outplay has introduced other channels as well. So it becomes a truly multi-channel approach rather than just sticking to the traditional ways of reaching out to people. Because prospects are getting creative and they're looking for solutions in different forms, in different mediums, in different channels. So why should the prospecting and reaching out to those prospects alone be limited to just email, call, and LinkedIn? So that's why Outplay has exactly introduced Twitter. It's a new age way of reaching out to people. Text messaging, that can be used in terms of just follow-ups. If you're calling someone, leaving voicemails is one thing, but you can also follow up with a text message. And WhatsApp, who doesn't use WhatsApp today? Might as well start reaching out to prospects on WhatsApp as well. So that kind of covers most of the channels that you might want to reach out. And I think Outplay has done phenomenally well in terms of having this multi-channel approach, which is like having as many channels as possible, that I don't think like a lot of tools today offer as an option.
Yeah, and this is bare minimum, right? I think if you are looking at a sales engagement platform, you can't do without multi-channel. It can't just be email, and that's a different platform already. That's an email automation platform. It's not really sales engagement, right? So, like Sandeep mentions, you got to be multi-channel. Why? Because your prospects are multi-channel. They are operating in different channels. They probably expect to receive responses across different channels, right? So, keeping that in mind, this is very, very important. And I'm just going to cover a bit about why it's important, why email validation is so important today, given that email is such a powerful channel alongside calling as well. And why it's so important in terms of figuring out whether you have the right email per se.
First and foremost, that is what is the most important channel of communication that people use to reach out to prospects. And if you're getting that wrong, then everything from there starts getting wrong into your creating the top of the funnel. So first of all, email validation is so much more important because one, you'll have to ensure that you're reaching the person, and domain health becomes a very, very important aspect in terms of your whole outreach process, right? If your domain health is going to take a hit, then you kind of like start reaching into the spam folders of your prospects. So that way, I think validation within an Outplay, which is like a tool of action, makes so much more sense and is going to add a lot of value to your time that you're today we're talking about prioritizing your emails in terms of getting the emails customized to every prospect. So you're spending a significant amount of time doing all of that. So when you're putting in so much effort and time into it, make sure the time that you're putting in, time and effort that you're putting into that whole process is getting rewarded in some way. So for that, make sure that you're reaching the inbox of the prospect that we're going after. So for that, I think email validation is a great feature to have, and I'm glad that Outplay has got it in, and it's a great value add for our prospects as well.
Awesome. Moving on. Now, this is something that we've always had, but I think we'll spend a couple of minutes here and talk about the importance of something like a dynamic sequencing, right? And something of the ability to move leads based on specific actions, why it's important. So, STM, just first of all, maybe give us the audience who's joining today who don't understand the larger context of what is dynamic sequencing and why is it so important today?
Okay, so I'll start off with what a sequencing is. Sequence is adding a structure to your whole process of reaching out to your prospects. Maybe there's email, there's calling, there's LinkedIn steps involved, there is like text messaging steps involved, all of that is there. But then when you're reaching out to multiple prospects, there could be from time to time that prospects are giving you those subtle hints, like they might be interested in your message that you've sent and could have opened your email multiple times. I'm not talking about the replies. Replies are the easiest to find out the intent of the prospect. But there could be other prospects who have opened your email multiple times or clicked on it multiple times, but could have not had the time to come back. So how do you want to treat those prospects who have shown higher level of intent?
Hey, your audio is...
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, we're good.
So sorry about that. So think about those prospects who have shown you higher level of intent. Do you want to send the same message to those prospects also? No, not really. Today in Salesforce, that doesn't happen and that wouldn't work. So how about moving them to a completely different sequence, which could have a higher level of intent? Maybe a lot more calling steps. Maybe the emails on the sequences are higher in intent. So how about doing all of that? So dynamic sequence is nothing but identifying those highly engaging prospects and automatically moving them to another sequence maybe, or adding extra call steps to your reps so that those prospects who have shown higher level of intent are also being taken care with high level of intent from your sales rep side. So that is something that is unique in Outplay. And I think it's helping us in a lot of ways, and got a feedback from a lot of our customers that they're also using it and getting like a lot of conversions happening, which otherwise could not have been identified in the first place.
Spot on. I think the key, one other point I got from this also is like keeping your conversations contextual as possible, right? I think with the right intent, and that's what you want, especially if you're, let's say you're outbounding typically, how do you know which kinds of leads to follow up? If you have enough intent signals, that should probably help you convert better as well, right? So I think the larger context of that. All right. We talk about, this is a very, I always love the outreach personalization at scale statement, right? It's, if you think about it, it's almost an oxymoron. How do you personalize at scale? But with a sales engagement platform, you actually can, right? And if you think about it, people, I always get the conversation when I talk to people about sales engagement, they say, hey, how do you personalize at scale? How is that even really possible, right? In Outplay, we help you do it. And we're taking 2 steps ahead, and we said, hey, we'll also use the power of AI to help you draft those emails better, to have those intelligent enough conversations as well. But Sandeep, just tell us a bit about how Outplay does personalization at scale.
So the whole world is talking about AI now. Yeah. So glad that Outplay has gone like 2 levels ahead and introduced AI even before ChatGPT did. Even before ChatGPT became like a rage. We are going to be integrating with ChatGPT soon. That's a big launch that's going to happen next. But before that, what can our AI do today? So we're talking about prospects. We're talking about personalizing emails to prospects. So what does the AI email writer do? So it kind of helps you draft emails based on the stages that the prospects are on. What are the different interactions that has already happened? If no interaction has happened, what can be like a customized email that you can send first up based on certain information that you may get from LinkedIn or any of the publicly available information that you have about the prospect. So imagine having to write all this by yourself and customizing the email. It might take a little longer, right? But imagine someone like an AI doing this for you and ensuring that the message is customized to the T, that it almost feel like a human had actually done a lot of research and sending out an email. That's exactly what we want to achieve today. And Outplay is going to help you do that.
Spot on. I think just being able to do that using the power of AI, I think in the larger sense to help you. Then, like Sandeep mentions as well, the future version of this, and we've been fortunate enough to get the early glimpses of what that looks like. It's just wow. I think it just almost cuts the sales reps time by half. Literally, if you're the next version of this, it's in the current version itself, you're already optimized for quite a bit. But the future version of this is just going to make it incredibly fast and really get the reps to focus on the act of selling itself and not worry too much about the other elements that go around it, right? So I think really excited for the next version of this as well coming. But yeah, now this feature, I think this feature has always been a wow. For folks who don't know what it is, we'll talk to you about this as well. Now this is a feature, and we're bringing it back again because it's almost every time I hit with customers. Whenever we talk about magic outbound chat, everyone goes, wow, your platform can do something like this. I haven't seen this anywhere with anybody else. It's something that's been there for eons in Outplay. Of course, we've edited it, we made it better, we've enhanced it with several feedback as well. But in a short, simple way, Sandeep, what does magic chat, why is it such a wow moment for customers whenever we show this particular feature out?
To be very honest, Sandeep, the first feature that I went wow about in Outplay was this magic outbound chat. Whenever I learned about Outplay, and this is some feature that made me go wow. Because think about the traditional channels we spoke about. We spoke about talking to prospects on email, on calls, on LinkedIn, Twitter. We have explored even WhatsApp. But how about having a conversation with your highly engaged prospects? Yeah, and giving that additional channel for your sales reps to actually have that conversation with their highly engaged prospect. So I'm sure a lot of your reps are going to be sending out emails, and the hope is that something in that email piques the interest of the prospect and gets them onto their website. And when they are on the website, how many of us actually have the opportunity to actually strike the iron when it's hot? That's exactly what the magic outbound chat brings to the table. So whenever your highly engaged prospects who have not responded to your email, who have not spoken a word with you on the call, but something on the email piqued their interest and they're on the website, immediately the reps would get notified that their prospects whom they have been outbounding get notified about the prospect being on the website, and then they can have a conversation with them straight off the bat. And that conversation is going to be very, very contextual, and it can be proactive as well. So think about that one additional channel will help you get that one extra opportunity.
Yeah, do try out, do check it out as well. I think this is a feature that we've had for a long time as well, and it's such a wow moment when you're on the website, when you go back and you click a link from your particular email, and suddenly you have a pop up with the particular individual who has reached out to you, have that conversation. Like Sandeep said, You keep the conversation so much more relevant. One additional new channel that can create that moment of wow, right? Awesome. I think this is one of our recent builds, and this is so important today in the age of emailing, calling, and one of our biggest channels that one would use out there. What is power dialing?
Why is it so? Think about sales reps today. They'll be making a lot of calls. Yeah, and most of the calls either land. If you're talking about a best case call to connection on a good day that you might have, but remaining 90 calls would either land in a voicer. So why on making those calls? What can a to make all those calls for you one after the other? No answer, it's going to automatically mark the disposition, land up in a voicemail. It has the option and entering the disposition that with a customized message, and you need to have the conversation with amount of time saving that your reps will in a sales engagement platform.
One second, STM. I think there's something with the audio. 1 second.
This is my audio.
Just give me a second.
Is it my audio, Sandeep, or is it your audio?
I think it's both. 1 second. We just okay. Sorry about that. Difficulty sometimes happen. We'll just stay on the platform as well. Yeah. We're just gonna quickly check the audio. Is it better now? Sorry about that. Sometimes these things happen.
Am I audible, Sandeep?
Yeah, you are very clear now. Just quickly check with our folks on the other end. Okay, good. We got a green signal. All right. Don't worry. This sometimes happens when you have these automated tools on LinkedIn which are trying to integrate. But this is something you will not see on Outplay. Outplay is keeping all of this very seamless per se. This is a typical LinkedIn scenario. Generally happens with good tools. Thanks a lot. I think a lot of people are confirming that it's loud and clear as well. Do appreciate it. Thanks, Shamir. Thanks, Alexander, for that note. Yeah, let's get into power dialing. Why power dialing is so important today?
Sure. So like how I mentioned, Sandeep, so today each rep might be expected to make 100 calls. Yeah. Just giving a hypothetical number there. So out of the 100 calls, even on good days, you're going to have like a 10% call to connect ratio.
That means 90 of your calls are either going to be not answered or going to go into a voicemail. So why should reps sit there and keep clicking on each of those 90 of those calls to make them do them manually? So that's exactly what the power dialer brings to the table. They don't have to do all of this manually. The power dialer will keep making those calls one after the other. And whenever there's a no answer, then it kind of enters the disposition by itself and moves on to the next call. And then when there's a voicemail that is had to be dropped, it automatically drops a customized voicemail and then moves on to the next call. So what are your reps going to do? They're only going to be concentrating on the 10% of the calls that they have to speak to someone. Whenever someone's getting connected, then the reps get connected and then they can have a conversation and then move on. So what is it doing to their time? They can use that unproductive time to maybe think about a better outreach or think about what better they can do in terms of getting more numbers, but not waste time on those not answered or voicemail kind of calls.
Right. So power dial almost becomes like a mandatory thing, especially when you're doing calling, which will anyways be part of your outbound process today, right? So like Sandeep said, driving better call efficiencies as well, and better usage of time. So again, a very important feature in the larger context, and something that all sales teams, if you have an engagement platform, you ideally need something that has power dialing as well, right? Before we go to the next one, I think I just jumped a slide. But more important, I think the larger context as well. One is, because if you think of the larger context of the sales engagement world, a CRM is something that you would have mandatory. Sales engagement platforms are also becoming mandatory. But you also need to make sure that you, as a platform, integrate with most of the CRM platforms out there, right? So today, we're showing you of that, of what typically we do as well. And of course, we integrate across multi platforms, products as well in the larger context. Why is that important, Sandeep, in the thing? One is, of course, CRM is obvious, but the other points.
Let's start with CRM itself. Like CRM is like going to be like your source of truth, and everything that you do from a sales perspective is going to be there in the CRM, right? So if there is no integration with some of the major CRMs in the market that you have today, then how are you going to get data? Data is gold today. You need all the data to analyze what has happened. But if you don't get that data to the right tool at the right time, then you're going to miss out on a lot of things. So Outplay has ensured that we integrate with most of the CRM in the market, and we are increasing that list as well. And we're trying to integrate with the upcoming CRMs right now, so that we're trying to cater to a larger audience. So apart from that, what we have also done, the CRMs is one aspect of things. So how about driving efficiency? So let's think about Slack. So today we get notifications in Slack for many things, but how about getting most important notifications, like if a prospect has opened your email, or if you've received an email from a prospect, or if a prospect has visited your website? All of that, if most reps doesn't have to be, they have to be on front of the computer all the time. They can be on the go, and Slack integration enables you get those important notifications while on the go. Yeah. So that's exactly what we're trying to do at Outplay. We're trying to build an integration that will make sense to a lot of people at most times, and make life easier and make life more efficient, especially for the sales folks.
Awesome. All right. This is something I am very excited about. The future.
This is something that I need to ask you a question about.
Yeah, go for it.
Let's turn things around. So far we've spoken about the sales side of things. So when it comes to inbound sales, inbound leads, and meetings that are getting booked on calendar, I'm sure you have like a lot more vested interest in trying to get these ones streamlined. So how important is this feature to you as a marketing leader?
I think this is mandatory, right? Like I feel like this. I think one of the biggest things as somebody who's in demand gen and marketing is important for me is how much pipeline we're trying to drive in the larger context. And especially with inbound leads such as signups, high intent leads or demo bookings, you really want to make sure that you're getting the maximum, if I put it in simple words, maximum juice out of every lead, every opportunity that comes through. By having the inbound lead converter that we have today, we're essentially trying to streamline that process in everything, right? So whether it's embedding calendars, whether it's intelligent meeting distribution for somebody who's booking, you want to make sure leads are going to the reps. So let's say a lot of companies have this. Even we have a version of this where you can have reps working in different regions. You can have reps working on different size of organizations. You can set up routing rules, workflow rules within the platform itself that can ensure the right lead goes to the right kind of rep at any given point in time, right? You want leads to get missed out as well in the larger context, right? And that's a very powerful thing. But I think this is, and this I think it's mandatory. It's something that everyone needs. But one thing that I think today that Outplay does very differently compared to most of the other platforms that I've seen as well is, of course, what about your top of the funnel leads, right? So you're talking about, let's say, webinar leads, content leads, event leads. Event leads to some extent could be middle, bottom of the funnel as well. But any top of the funnel lead, how best are we doing the right things to ensure those leads are getting passed, let's say, to SDRs, to sales reps and whatnot? Today's the way we've built the inbound lead conversion, of course, one is, of course, the routing, as I mentioned earlier. Here, the biggest power is the fact that the leads get enriched directly. Today, we have an integration with Clearbit today, which allows us to have that those leads getting enriched. And of course, based on the criterion of how we've built the workflow, goes into the right rep, goes into the sequence. So we talk about speed to lead, we've achieved that, right? So literally, you can have a lead going into your system, into a rep's hand within less than 24 hours. I know companies who take 3-4 days to send that across. You can reduce that speed to lead incredibly fast, because a lot of the times, especially with top of the funnel leads, whether it's content downloads or webinars, people lose context. By the time the lead and SDR reaches out to somebody, they're like, hey, what webinar, sorry? Or what content piece, sorry? I don't remember. And a lot of the times you can eliminate those kind of conversations by having something like this, right? So really excited about this part. This is what if you folks were following us on social, we did a product hunt launch essentially about this larger piece of whatever intent, whether it's high intent, medium, low intent, the inbound lead conversion app will really solve those problems for you, right? So I'm super excited about this particular thing that we've launched.
And especially from a sales side of things as well, inbound leads are gold, man. Like we all try to scale the outbound, but whenever there's an inbound, every salesperson knows that that is something that will be an easy closure, high intent closure. So they would want to go after it ASAP. And even from a sales leader standpoint, I would want the leads to be routed to the right reps, like how you rightly mentioned, Sandeep. I wouldn't want like I want the enterprise leads to maybe go to the reps who have the expertise to handle the enterprise level accounts. If it's an inbound lead, then that kind of routing also is available in Outplay. So based on company size, based on revenue size, based on number of reps, based on anything that you need, it can be routed. And the most important thing we're talking about is like the double round robin functionality in Outplay. Some of the most complicated technical products might need like another person, maybe a pre-sales person or a customer success person, be on the call along with the salesperson. So Outplay enables you to actually do like a double round robin. You can have like one person from the sales team and one person from the pre-sales or the customer success team, both being on the same call at the same time. So that is something that is very unique to Outplay, which I think will add a lot of value to a lot of prospects.
Awesome. All right, let's go to conversational intelligence. We'll jump straight into it. Now, again, this is something else I feel is almost mandatory in a larger sales process, right? So you might already have a tool today or you don't have a tool today as well. It is becoming more and more mandatory. And Sandeep will tell us, first of all, why it's so important. And there's also another use case, and this is something that we've been hearing from a lot of our customers as well. It doesn't restrict to the sales persona alone, and we'll cover that before we close on the CI part. But yeah, Sandeep, why is CI so important, and what does Outplay do today to enable sales reps using conversational intelligence?
So let's think about real life scenarios, right? Like whenever there's an opportunity on the table, you definitely want to close them. But if in a scenario where you've lost a deal, you want to be able to go back and identify at what stage the deal was lost. Is it at the demo level? Is it at the negotiation level? Is it at even the discovery stage? You want to do the slicing and dicing at every stage so that you know exactly what needs to be fixed, where the pipe is leaking, so that you can have that fix done. So that is from a sales angle. So what the conversation intelligence brings to the table, it kind of helps the manager identify how the calls have gone. The opportunity is coming. After that, what happens? After that, how were the calls driven? Were they driven? Were they spoken with the right intent? Were they spoken with the right words that should have been spoken on the call? Or were there like too much information that was given to them that was not needed? Or was the rep talking too much? Or did we not hear out the prospect? All of that information the manager in today's scenario needs to know to be able to fix the pipe. Yeah. So that is something that a tool like CI can bring to the table. So that is something that is available from within Outplay itself. Makes it so much more easier, right? So you've sourced the lead The lead is coming, you're engaged with the prospect, and then you've got the prospect in the call, and then you want to understand how the call went as well. So that is something that is very, very important. So you kind of have a product or a use case at every level that Outplay brings to the table, and especially from CI. So in today's scenario, with the market condition that we are in, so CI is not something that can be used only by the sales teams. So as much as getting new business, how difficult it has gotten, retaining customers has taken so much more prominence in today's scenario, in today's market condition. I'm talking about where we're talking about economic slowdown and all of that. So then a customer success team plays a major role in the process of retaining those customers that are already paying you the money. So then those calls will also have to be monitored in trying to understand how those calls went, how are the customer interaction, how are they engaging with the existing customers, what are we doing to retain them. So all of that will also be have to analyze in terms of identifying, and that is to ensure that is less churn, not bleeding there on that front. So that way, it's a tool for not just the sales folks, but also for the customer success folks to ensure that the money that is already in the bank remains in the bank.
Awesome. I think that's super important for CS as well. And just to give you functionally, I think the slide itself covers in terms of what it actually does for you. Really trying to provide real-time recommendations, because it is AI after all. It's learning, it's picking up phrases that you're talking about, giving you options for you to tell you how you can sort of manage that call, handle that call as well, identify particular pain points or objections that you would have got all as well, right? So all of this really helps you, like Sandeep mentioned, analyze how the call went, did it go favorably, did not go favorably as well, who spoke more, who spoke lesser, what happened in the larger context of it, right? And there are a few more things. I will cover a few more of this as well, right? So so I think the larger context is, of course, it records meetings, generates transcripts, helps you locate and add notes at key points. So really helping you with that dissection of the call itself, right? And really, the last point that we mentioned here as well, figuring out what's working. Like for this kind of, let's say you hear a competitor's name, are we saying the right things at the base of that per se, right? And how that largely helps.
And one more thing that a tool like a conversation intelligence that is being provided by Outplay can help is with training. So I'm sure most sales leaders are struggling with a training plan, and there could be like new folks joining the system, and even with the old folks in the system, not necessarily that they note all the information all the time, right? So we have something called battle cards in our CI. So whenever you are on calls with your prospects, be it Zoom calls or Google Meet, or even the calls that you make using our dialogue. Yeah. So whenever you're on calls, and then when anything objection is that is mentioned, be it in terms of pricing or if a competitor's name is mentioned, you can have multiple keywords in the system. And then whenever any of those keywords are mentioned, you will have an Outplay assistant pop up with the cue cards that you can use as conversation driver. So what does this do for the rep? So whenever there is like a brain fade moment, or they're not sure of any information that they can pass on to the prospect at that point in time to answer the question, instead of saying, okay, let me get back to you with the information, how about having like an assistant at that point in time, real time, telling you what needs to be told? So how useful would that be for a rep? Wouldn't that save that call or that opportunity? So that's exactly what we've built as well in terms of the conversation intelligence. So it's just not to analyze post the meeting when it's done, but it's also during the meetings and also during those phone calls that you're making, to ensure that you say the right things, and to help you say the right things, that this conversation intelligence will help you.
Yeah, that's very, very powerful. I wish I had this when I was actively outbound calling as well. Just something that telling me, hey Sandeep, this competitor name has come. Say these few lines that can help you with that conversation, or if there's a very clear objection about a particular point, use these things, right? So I think is this, like Sandeep mentions, right? It's not just almost a postmortem effect of that call. This is real-time analysis. This is real-time insights. This is real-time stuff that's telling you this is how you can get better. And of course, if you think about it, another example I would give is like your team lead right there. And if you've made live cold calls, you're struggling with something. And especially if you're a new, doesn't matter if you're a new caller, if somebody's been in the business, you can always do a little bit of help, some assistance somewhere to tell you, like somebody mentioned, proper brain fail moment at that point. Someone telling you, hey, speak about this or talk about this or mention this point. And sometimes that's all you need to engage in that conversation. That's all you need to book that next meeting or have that further demo or whatever you're trying to do, right? So yeah, very, very powerful, especially given it's live, it's intuitive, and give you that analysis as well. Yeah. So Sandeep already mentioned about the battle cards point. So this is kind of what it will look like, Outplay versus others. And you can, of course, set this up based on who your competition is and typically what you're setting up as well. So you will have to preset a bunch of these things, but you can set it up on whatever you need, right? For example, in our case here, we put strengths, weaknesses, features. Now, all this is customizable. You might have a different category as well that you might want to introduce in the larger context, and that's where it will help you. Collaboration. How do we collaborate and capture more opportunities as well, right? So this is very useful in the other context of, hey, I want to be able to share these calls like 2-3 people to review, right? Now this can potentially help there as well. How else, STM, this will help the larger context be able to collaborate?
So this is again from a training perspective, and also from a learning perspective. Just doesn't have to be a training from the management side or a company side, right? So let's say there are 2 reps who have the energy and urge to actually learn and more and do better. Yeah. So they can share the recording with themselves and say even the parts of the call that they thought went well or did not go well, and get feedback from others. And also not just that, even if you want to share that recording, say if you want to share the recording to your prospect tomorrow, that can also be done. Instead of telling your prospect, hey, these are the things that were discussed, you can give them like a snapshot of how that meeting went. That also Outplay helps you with. It gives you that whole snapshot that you can share. But how about giving the entire recording, so that if at all they have to present it to someone within the system, they can obviously share the recording, and then that can work as good as giving another demo or giving another walkthrough of your product to the important key stakeholders inside that company, right? So all that is very, very powerful, and it's very much needed in today's scenario. Yeah. Instead of sitting there and going through another call with that prospect, no, if they want it, we can do it, no doubt, no one's stopping it. But it's going to save a little bit more time.
Absolutely, spot on. So net in summary, if you have to think about everything that we've covered, feel free to, if you want to take a screenshot of this, of course, we'll keep this video as well there. We'll send you a copy of this video if you want to go through all of this as well. But just a snapshot of some of the pieces that we tried to cover today, right? It's much more than what you think it is just for engagement. It's much bigger than that. It's lead sourcing. It's the ability to schedule meetings, the inbound lead conversion, app conversation intelligence, you name it. It's literally Outplays now your all-in-one sales stack. You don't need to step into other tools. You don't need to have multiple point solutions per se. It's literally just one solution that can solve everything for you, right? So, and like we said, before we go to the next slide,
I think
right.
Sandeep, just to add on, so as humans, we've always evolved, and we tried to consolidate a lot of things, right? Like, for example, at one point in time, cameras were like a very big thing, and then came mobile phones, and then now we have like very powerful cameras in mobile phones, and that makes life so much more easier. Today you have like movies that are getting shot using mobile phones. So the technology is developed so much, and then it's all consolidating multiple technologies into one, multiple use cases into one. And there are companies that have gone like completely nowhere when they've not adapted and have like consolidation done, considering multiple use cases. But Outplay is not that. Outplay has already started the consolidation. Outplay is already going to help you gain efficiency in the system. So think about the camera example that I gave you, and think about how today Outplay has got like multiple tools that can be accessed within just one platform, which is Outplay. So you save time in terms of when you're doing your work, in terms of training, in terms of support, whatnot. Instead of reaching out to multiple support teams and multiple teams for training, you get all of that in just one platform, which is Outplay.
Awesome. And last but not the least, feel free to sign up. But if you think of the larger context of what we did today as well, right? If you think of what today was probably a trailer of the larger film as well. We specifically didn't want to go into individual aspects because, whilst this particular session was scheduled for half an hour, of course, I had a very strong feeling we would move across the stipulated time. But if you really want to get it down into understanding how each of these components work, whether it's lead sourcing, whether it's the inbound lead conversion app, whether it's the new version of sales engagement or conversation intelligence, feel free to sign up or feel free to book a demo as well with us. We'd be happy to sort of walk through individual components and really show some of this in action. And that's what you really want to see as well, right? So feel free to do that. Feel free to come over. We've just launched a bunch of these things as well today. So happy to show you that as well. Or if you feel, hey, I want to go play around with all of this myself, we've got that 14-day trial. Do sign up. You will get access to most things and you can feel free to play around. Cool. Any last words, Sandeep, before we say goodbye to this wonderful audience who joined us today?
Just outplay your sales team with Outplay. So that's about it.
All right. Outplay, help everyone in your team. Outplay the competition. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn. As I said, if you'd like to get a deeper dive of how each of these components work, each of these product inline work, sign up for a free trial, or you can also book a demo as well. We'd be happy to talk you through specific elements of this as well. Do appreciate you joining us. Thank you. Have a good day, good evening, good night. Bye-bye.